James Kaufman, World News Report today. NOAA warns about a dangerous sunspot coming around the limb. A very active sunspot is emerging from behind the sun's limb. Solar activity is poised to increase with the emergence of this large and potentially explosive sunspot from the sun's southeastern limb. NASA's Solar Dynamic Observatory is watching the sunspot group rotate over the edge of our solar disk. We actually have two very active sunspots emerging almost simultaneously in both the southern and northern hemispheres. Although the sunspot in the southern hemisphere is thought to be responsible for two very large solar flares and associated coronal mass ejections that we have seen over the past week. We do have those two explosions and associated coronal mass ejections for you to review. Now, this is not to say that there are not additional sunspots following these that look very complex as well. In fact, there are additional sunspots following these that do look complex, and we'll take a look at those as well. Again, we know that the sunspot coming around the limb in the southern hemisphere produced two significant solar flares and coronal mass ejections in the past week. This is number one that happened on the 8th. It's believed to be an X flare and created a large halo coronal mass ejection, as you can see. This is solar flare number 2. Lasted 6 to 8 hours. Nothing that I've ever seen before. You can see it goes from the 11th through the 12th here. And it actually was picked up on our GOES satellite as an M3.3, but it's also believed to have been an X-class solar flare. And believe it or not, even on the far limb coming around, it still produced a halo CME. You can see the plasma on the opposite side of the sun. Now, this was far enough around the limb that Earth will not be hit by this coronal mass ejection, but we were also not able to get a good reading on the strength of that actual solar flare. So that is the sunspot everyone's worried about. I believe it's still to be unnamed. We'll take a look. And here she comes. Now, obviously, both explosions occurred while the sunspot was on the far side of the sun or not Earth-facing, so no solar flares or coronal mass ejections affected our planet. All right, over at HMI Intensigram, the sunspot in the southern hemisphere, you can see here, has picked up a name. Sunspot AR4341. You can also see the sunspot group in the northern hemisphere has not picked up a name yet, but should be 4342. So they are in fact named. Let the games begin. Everyone that watches this channel knows it takes about 12 days for a sunspot to transit the Earth-facing side of the solar disk. So you can start that timer right about now. And, well, obviously, the more centrally located 4341 is, which is still considered a simple sunspot, the more dangerous for Earth it could be. Taking a look at the backside of the sun, these two small gray spots represent these two very dangerous sunspots, i.e. the one we're being warned about is this gray spot right here. But we have a burgundy sunspot group coming behind that, a very large red sunspot group coming behind that, another yellow sunspot group up here, 008, and 007 here. So this is going to be a very, very busy few weeks. And with all that said, look at this coronal hole that's formed that's almost Earth-facing already. The disk seems to be spinning awful quick today. This is our new boy here. AR4341. And this sunspot group here should probably be named, but at the end of the day, you can see it's also arcing plasma. At one point, they actually looked like they were, well, connected via a plasma arc. So this could get real ugly real fast. A coronal hole to deal with, and to start with, two very active sunspots that are thought to be responsible for 2 X-class solar flares since the 8th, so less than a week's time. All right, now, as we know, Earth is now entering the strike zone, so future flares and coronal mass ejections will be geoaffective towards Earth. As you know, these two very complex sunspots, one named, one unnamed, will take about 12 days to transit the Earth-facing side of our solar disk. So we'll have to keep our fingers crossed that neither of these sunspot groups produce a solar flare and associated coronal mass ejection that Earth's atmosphere in its current state cannot handle. And this is not to mention the numerous trailing sunspots, some looking absolutely enormous. With that said, I'm going to keep a close eye on these sunspots, and you will be the first to know, although any big flare could reach us in 15 to 20 hours, so there won't be a lot of time to prepare. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep your fingers crossed, say a prayer, do what you do, but this is a serious situation. And let's please not forget, on top of everything, we have to throw in this extremely large coronal hole that just created itself in front of these sunspots, which will be Earth-facing in about 24 hours, meaning we should see the coronal hole high-speed stream of winds hitting Earth in perhaps, well, 40 to 70 hours maximum, which we have no way around, period. We can just pray that it's not combined with coronal mass ejections, and this turns into a complete shit show. Please give us a thumbs up, please share, please subscribe if you haven't, and always remember, anything's possible. Bizarro world.